Welcome to the Sensitive Warrior, where feeling everything is your superpower. Hi, my name is Doreen, and I'm also author of Embracing Venus, Achieve a Life Lit Up for Highly Sensitive People. I'm also a coach. I help highly sensitive people thrive with all their challenges that they're facing. I do this virtually and in my studio in Norwell, Massachusetts. Today, we have a wonderful guest, but before I introduce her, I just want to share a teeny bit about high sensitivity. I know so many of my people that are following me know about this, but newcomers, I just want you to understand that this is a trait that sits on between 15 and 20% of the population. You'll never find me at Disney World. It's just too bright. It's too loud. I'm just too sensitive to the energy. I know that sounds woo-woo, but the truth is I really can feel the energy with people. And sometimes that helps me to regulate myself. But most of the time, sometimes it turns out to be just a little too much. It can be very overwhelming. So this is a real challenge highly sensitive people have. People have said to me in the past, are you on the spectrum? And I always say the same thing, aren't we all? Because really, we all have traits of different parts of us in us, and who's to say? But no, I am not autistic, but I am a highly sensitive person. The beautiful part of being a highly sensitive person or an HSP is that we have very deep intuition. We can sense others. We can sense pain. We can sense pleasure more deeply than other people can. And in my Reiki studio, I have had the privilege of working with people and have literally felt and learned and understood what they were thinking and saying before they even said it. And this is something that high sensitivity people can do. It's not a trick, it's a gift, but it does come with the challenges. So today, I hope to put some light on with a very interesting guest we have here today. I'd like to introduce Seraphine Wanami. Welcome.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. So you're here really today to represent Seraphine Photography. So, of course, I want to promote your business because I know and I've seen your work. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. But it's so interesting because I'm so glad that you're on because many HSPs can feel especially vulnerable, right? In front of a camera. So how do you create that safe, comfortable space for them during a photo shoot?
So first and foremost, the biggest thing is actually I have my portrait session set up so that I get to talk to you on the phone the first time, get to know a little bit about you, get to know what your pain points are, get to know what is driving you or what is making you actually call me today for portraits. Then once we talk about that, then I invite you to my studio for a consultation appointment. At that time, we get to sit down, get to know each other. And as we get to know each other, it actually, I get to learn what your needs are. I get to learn who you are. And through that, that's how we actually kind of get to create some magic. Because then you're not meeting a stranger for the first time. And you're comfortable, you know that I'm aware of all your needs before we even start photographing.
Wow, that sounds like tremendous experience. How long have you been doing this work?
I've been doing this for, I want to say going on 8 years now, maybe it's 9.
I think they call 8 years an expert, so I think you're an expert. I think that's what they call an expert, someone who's been doing this for like 8 years. I think that's that magic number. So your studio is located where?
Studio is located in Braintree at the Five Corners, and we're at 400 Franklin Street.
Okay, yeah, that's good. It's a great location. Yeah, that's a great, handy location. Yeah, it's really pretty there.
So beautiful there.
Yeah, so you're familiar with what we're talking about with highly sensitive people.
Yes.
Yeah. So share what you'd like. And as far as when you're doing these photo shoots, though, what is your approach to somebody who is really sensitive to, like, for instance, these lights today they're blinding, right? But we have to have them, right? And that's the hardest part of my whole talk with people are these lights, because that's me, that's my issue. But when you're working with people, what do you find that some of the commonalities that people are very concerned about?
It's amazing, actually, that I've never really paid so much attention to the light. And weird enough, I'm sensitive to light.
Is that right? Oh, great. So you're really sensitive.
Look at the lights. I can't look at the lights. They're very blinding to me.
Yeah.
I can't have a flashlight near me either.
Oh, wow.
And yet, weird enough, I've never really paid attention to the light. However, maybe by not paying attention, it's because I've already paid attention to it. I believe I set my lights up in locations or situations so that they're not right in front of you, right? A little bit farther away, and then I have a couple of lights facing, so they light you well enough, but not right in your face. And that sort of helps
Hugely.
not pay attention to the light,
Right.
but also the session is usually, we focus on you as a person
Sure.
and what's important
Right.
and what else is going on in your life. So, and hopefully by doing that, I've managed to actually divert the attention from the light.
Oh, okay.
But I've not actually had, apart from maybe a child or two, and when I do notice that, then I'll bring the light back a little bit more. And I use a little bit of also natural light. I weave in a little bit of the natural light, but I also have the light set up in different positions.
Well, I love that you have the conversation on the phone to get people more comfortable and then to meet you. So when they do come back in for the shoot, you're an old friend. You know, you're no longer someone like you're almost trying to impress or you don't know what they think of you. You've released their anxiety, right? So that's kind of a great, that's a great service to get people that comfortable. Does it really take that though? I mean, it sounds like it does for some great photos, does it?
I truly believe I wouldn't do it any other way.
Wow.
I don't know if it's because of my own selfish reasons, but I
Maybe
truly do believe that it really works, especially because not everybody that I meet in my studio is sensitive, and some people want to come in and go. But for those people who really need it, it's priceless. Taking that time with them. I've had a session where someone wanted to come in for headshots, and midpoint in the middle of this session, we had to stop because I could tell she was really, really nervous. I had never met her before, apart from having a conversation with her. She was a realtor and needed headshots for work.
Of course.
So she didn't get the opportunity to meet me ahead of time. And midpoint, I had to stop and tell her, relax. I can tell you're really nervous, because she was so nervous that she was shaking.
Yeah. And she's not going to present, right? She's not going to present her beauty, or her light is not going to become reflected, right? Because also the mask of the fear is on, right?
Exactly. So we stopped midpoint, got to relax. I got to talk with her. We got to chat, get to know each other a little bit, and then continued on. And that's when the magic started happening. But for those people that I actually get the opportunity to meet with ahead of time, it gives us time to just sit down and get to know each other. And I allocate enough time in a day. A lot of it, my studio's a little bit more slower, and it's not a fast-paced environment. So I typically do not schedule more than 2 consultation appointments in a day.
Wow.
I need to recover from each consultation appointment that I have.
How long do they last?
About an hour. It could be an hour. It could be, I've had consultation appointments that will go up to 2 hours.
Wow.
It just depends on who it is that I meet, and how comfortable they get with me and how much information we get to discuss.
Wow.
It also depends on the type of session we're going to have. But it should be for somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour, 90 minutes tops. But I also create the space so that if somebody needs to be there longer, I'm not rushing into another meeting.
That's so interesting. You know, I think when I talk about high sensitivity, a lot of people will say to me, you know, what is that? And that's not me. But it's more obvious, more common than we think, isn't it? Especially
really
even
is.
if they're not a full-blown HSP that can sense people and the empathy is so deep. But even those traits, you have to be a great listener, to get people comfortable enough. So you really must see a little bit of that in almost everybody, right?
Yes, there's a lot of that. And I think a lot of us don't even realize that we're highly sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
We really don't.
So your approach has to be you have to go in almost assuming that there's going to be a sensitivity and of an anxiety. You almost have to go in prepared.
I think a lot of people do not like to be photographed. A lot of people get very nervous. And in all honesty, a lot of people, and also a lot of the times when I have that initial conversation with you on the phone, I get to know, because I'll ask you, when's the last time you were photographed? When's the last time you did something like this?
Yeah.
And if somebody was recently photographed, then I'll ask them, so what is it why now? And sometimes it's like, I just didn't quite get to see myself. When I'm working with families, sometimes, a lot of people will say, and the reality of it is, I have that child who's slow to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have a child who's slow to warm up, I believe I've set things up. I started my business because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm aware of that.
That makes you just excellent, because now you have that other experience where you know this, you could be dealing with the same thing, and you want to give them the same kindness.
And I'll share this. This is a little bit sidetracked, right?
Yeah.
We've had a conversation, I think, when I met you, and you were talking about
almost a year ago, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were talking about highly sensitive. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's me. I check all these things. And then later on, a while back, we knew our daughter was sensitive. That we knew of. We have an 11-year-old daughter, and we knew that she was sensitive. So, and that is actually the reason why I've set up my portrait sessions to be the way they are, especially when I'm working with children.
Oh,
because it's in those young children who are usually slow to warm up to the camera, or even slow to warm up to people.
Absolutely.
That lead you into knowing that they're sensitive. Mm-hmm. They need to be slower. You need to go slower.
Of course.
Because for that kind of child, you just can't go in.
Yeah.
They're going to actually freeze.
Yeah.
And not respond to you at all.
So how do you do it? How do you photograph children then? What is your approach?
So if I find a child who's slow to warm up, I just let her be. Slower voice. If I need to do that, I'll let them do what they want to do. And I assure mom that ahead of time that, don't worry, we're not rushing to go anywhere, really. I'm not rushing to go anywhere. So in those types of sessions, those days, actually, there are days that I will not take another session.
No, right? I can imagine.
Because if I get into seeing that child, I know what mom wants.
Yeah.
And I know that mom wants those smiling pictures. And if not smiling, those quiet moments. And if that's what we need to, so the children do really drive the session, right? I prepare the parents. So I'll tell them, make sure the child has taken a nap if they need to. If it's a younger child, right? Make sure they're rested. Make sure they're fed. What's the typical habits of this child at this age? Once we get that out of the way, and that's where the consultation comes in handy, right? If it's a child whose mom is already aware and the child is not able to take a time off to come and meet with me the first time, then what I do is I'll have mom give me all the information that I need. And when they come in, if it's a portrait session for the family, I know that child needs a little time. So we start with the family, give them time to warm up, and then
so you kind of treat the whole family then, not just the child. You're really kind of preparing the mom and who's ever bringing that child.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So in the case of a family session, and then the child will eventually warm up and open up, because all they really need is time. And once they open up, then that's when you get to see this child.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit, because I think you're right about time, because you're the expert, but you have to be who you are, because you have a very calming, gentle way. And if you were really rough and abrupt and gave her all the time in the one, I don't think the child would be as welcoming and relaxed. So I think you have something to do with it.
Well, I like to think of it as it's teamwork, it's collaboration, really, because if I don't know that going in, then I don't know that.
Interesting. So do you do all your photos in the studio, or do you go on location as well?
I also go on location. So I do what's best, right? And it's not what people prefer. And because I work with families, it's custom portraiture, right? So I'm curating these portrait sessions, the portrait experiences to each family and what their likes are, because they're going to live with this portrait in their home. So it's important to get what matters to them.
Right. It could be their beach house, or it could be their Christmas tree, or whatever it is.
It could be their home. It could be a local park. And if it's a local park or public place, I do have a few locations that I enjoy working.
Oh,
where
perfect.
They're not high traffic places. Because again, it allows for that family to have the time
Right.
to be able to be just themselves and not have the distraction of everybody else.
Right.
Spend our time waiting on people to walk by versus
That's got to be
feeling like you are in a secluded place
Right.
where you get to enjoy your time.
So what is one of the biggest or the most common issues people have when they come see you and they want their photography done? Well, they say, I take terrible pictures. Or like, what is like, I don't know that, but I'm just, my intuition says that most people are similar and that if they haven't had, my husband is one of 8. So by the time he was born, they didn't take any pictures of him because they were busy. They had seven kids, to take. So taking a picture of him, he always looks so serious because he's never even learned to just be himself.
Yeah.
So you must have to do training, of course, as well as. But when people come, what's the common issue that people have when they come to you and they're going to work with you?
I don't like how I look in my pictures.
Yep.
Right. They were good. They were good, but they were not me. Right?
Okay. That's so they don't feel like their essence is reflective.
Correct.
And have you seen the pictures to say, you know what? Yeah, after meeting you, that isn't you.
It is absolutely.
So you really try to capture the you.
And that's where the time comes in.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that time.
Yeah. So you're still sitting on the time.
The time for me is the biggest thing.
That's the recipe.
Because I think when we meet, who gets to be themselves when you first meet someone?
True.
Right. I had a woman recently come into my studio and she wanted business portraits.
Okay.
Now I've known this woman for a while and she thought, it's just going to be a quick session. I come in and
she hasn't met you.
No, she hasn't met me in studio.
Exactly.
Because most people do expect that, yes, I'll come in, it's going to be 10 to 15 minutes and then we're done.
Because you would think that. You would think that. It's just a couple of shots, right?
Yes. Yes. But I believe that truly for someone to connect to the camera, for that essence to come out. And yes, I could still do a great job by photographing you. You look lovely. You do look lovely. Right? We all do look lovely. But then it's that soul. It's the spirit.
I love that. I love that you look for that. Because I think that's what people want. People want people to get them, right?
That's what matters.
So you were telling, I think I interrupted you and I'm sorry. You were saying a woman came in recently and so what was her story?
So we photographed and she had her makeup and her hair done initially. And I mean, because I've met her before and I know who she is. And right there, immediately she said, I'm not sure about the makeup. So we toned it back. There was a little bit more contouring than she was comfortable seeing. And once that was done, once we started working together, the magic, that moment when I saw I saw her, because I know her, I saw her open up.
Had you seen her open up before when you knew her? Or you never saw her, like you had to change, had to get her in a different place?
So I've known this woman for many, many years. So I know who she is.
So you've seen her essence.
I've seen her essence.
You've seen her soul.
Yes. And I know she's a kind woman.
When she came in, she was kind of stoic and very
as we always are.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha. So you brought that back out.
But the minute that opened up and she felt it. She felt that confidence come on the camera and come up. And I showed her the back of the camera because I think I squealed a little when I got that portrait when that confidence came in, and I squealed a little bit and I showed it to her. And from that moment on, she just shone, she shined through each and every portrait.
She must have been thrilled.
By the end of the portrait session, a few days later, she sends me a message. She says, "Thank you for doing this. Now I feel like I need to show up." She's a businesswoman, a nearly businesswoman. And she said, "You've given me the courage to show up every day as I show up in those portraits." And I asked her, "Do you really feel like this is you?" Her sister does not recognize her portraits.
What?
And I asked her, "Do you feel like this is you?" And she said, "Yes, this is a polished version of myself."
Polished. She called it polished.
Polished.
It was a business portrait.
Yes.
And she saw it as polished.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a nice word. Maybe to take the edges off, the stress off or something, as she thinks of polish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of the makeup, and most people don't recognize her because of the makeup and the hair,
okay,
the way it was done. But she's seen herself that way. So she does see herself. I always tell people it's how you see yourself in the back of your head. You know that image or vision you have of yourself in your head? Of how your family looks? Or how you interact with your family? Or who you are? The desires, that inner desire that we have. And that's what was finally came up. So her sister did not recognize her because her sister has gotten accustomed to seeing her every day.
But wouldn't her see her essence every day?
Probably not.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Probably not. Her sister doesn't live nearby. She lives a little bit farther away.
Oh, they don't live together. Gotcha.
So, but yeah, she could see her as the younger version, like 16, 20, 30, younger, 20, 30-year-old.
Oh, she must have been thrilled with those.
So, but she absolutely loves them.
Yeah.
She absolutely loves them.
They were in your studio?
She was in my studio.
Okay, so that was a studio shot.
Yes. And it's not that she doesn't quite recognize who she is. It's just that that's not how she shows up every day. She doesn't wear makeup every day.
Yep.
So that's something different. That's where the polish comes in, right? On a day-to-day basis, she doesn't wear makeup. She's more of running around, doing errands or working and all that. So that's where the polish comes in. So let me just clarify that a little bit.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah. So, but it's exciting. And I think just the time is what allows somebody to relax and just really show up and be themselves rather than.
So we talked about like sensitive people and you kind of approaching it, kind of assuming that people are going to have their vulnerabilities and their anxieties. Is your approach different for men and women? And do they come to the studio differently?
I don't, the reality of it is I think people tend to think that men come in more confidently, but the reality of it is they're not. Yes, they might have that. They're used to wearing that mask that they wear every day. But I think deep down, they all have vulnerabilities. And what's become very surprising is that I've photographed a few men for business portraits. And when they're done, they wanted a portrait of themselves.
Or?
Printed portrait.
Oh.
To have in their home.
Wow.
Because they were able to see
they can say they really wanted that to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be able to see that and have that at home with themselves.
Interesting.
And that's, I don't believe that that's every day that men would typically want. And especially not when you're photographing people for business, especially when someone comes in, they want business portraits. Typically, I don't expect to sell wall art or portrait art. That comes with the territory of family portraits or empowerment sessions.
Sure.
But not business portraits. But I've had a few people come in and had portrait art from their portrait sessions. And again, I think I do truly believe, because yes, it might take an hour to get that one or two portraits that you need.
Yeah.
But if it take an hour and get you that one great shot where you see yourself.
And you're willing to do that with people.
I'm willing to do that.
You're willing to go through that time frame and shoot till you get that one.
Till we get that one. Wow. And not because we're not going to have
more
good portraits.
Right, but you're
going to get to pick from the best.
And do you tend to find one that the person will say yes, or do you pick a different one because you see it and they don't?
And sometimes I do. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes someone will see it and go, actually, one of the last portraits that I had, the man had closed his eyes. He closed his eyes, but you could see right through him. The smile.
Yeah, wow. He had the smile, but his eyes were closed.
His eyes were
closed. I'm famous for doing that. I don't know what it is with that. Maybe because it's the lights.
It could be, actually. I thought about asking him if, and it could be, but with this one, he closed his eyes. A lot of the other portraits, his eyes were open.
Wow,
but
interesting.
This one, it's just the way he was smiling that you could see right through.
Wow.
To his soul. So that's what's important.
So what's the youngest person, the youngest child? What's the youngest you've ever you've taken a photograph of somebody?
Let's see, 6 months,
6 months, newborns,
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Typically, that's not my age group mostly, but I mean, in the setting of a family.
Yeah,
I do
time to time.
that,
But
yes.
yeah, and how about the oldest person?
93, 94, maybe 95.
90s. And now do they come with the same vulnerabilities and anxieties or not so much?
I think they all come with the same anxiety.
Yeah, okay.
I truly do. I think some of us
you have your work cut out for you no matter what the age.
I think some of us are better at masking it than others, right?
Right.
Some of us are better at masking it than others. I mean, not everybody is going to be sensitive, but I think at the end of the day, each session, I assume that everybody is going to need what they need. And I set it up so that, especially when I'm working with custom portrait sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not scheduling sessions back to back.
Right.
Because I also need to recover.
Well, if you're a highly sensitive person, you're taking in all that energy and you're putting all your energy out to please people. And that takes energy right there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy. And when I'm done, if I go home, I'm going to sit on the couch.
You are.
And just take a deep breath. And a lot of times, depending on the size of family that I work with, I might need a day or two to recover.
Wow. Yeah. You're an HSP,
I do need
my friend.
a day or two to recover.
Yeah. No,
but I'm able to tell from the consultation appointment what we need.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not, and sometimes, but I have my session scheduled in a way that I build in time to recover from each session.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things I coach on is boundary setting. It's not just to tell people no; it's to set your own boundaries. Really, I tell people try to maintain a low key lifestyle. And what I don't mean that you don't work and you don't have a fun life. It's just that try to find a way to keep your energy from, for instance, the first thing in the morning, if you have really intense energy going out, there's a good chance you're not going to have any for the rest of the day. There's a chance. So you really have to it's not so much managing your time, it's managing your energy throughout the course of the day, right?
Yes.
So for you, I have to do the same thing. I have to sometimes, when I first started doing Reiki, in between clients, I would lay down on the floor in my Reiki studio just to try to I was exhausted and I had to learn how to manage my energy working with people. So sounds like you have the same challenges, but that usually makes you pretty terrific because you've really given all that your best, your light to somebody else, right?
Thank you. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I bet
and I do want to give them my best. I want to give them my all.
Absolutely.
So when I'm working with them, because at that time, they're all that matters.
They're all
that matters, right? I'm there to serve them. It's all that matters.
Yeah.
So I'm there. I give them my all because that's really what this life is about. Let me take that back because there are a lot of people who photograph and there are a lot of people who could curate portraits for you or you can create portraits for you. But I truly do believe that our work is meant for more than just us. And to have that and to be able to see that.
Yeah, you're part of their journey.
Yes.
I love that.
It's just as important. Yeah.
Wow. See, there's so much more to what you do that meets the eye. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So great to learn more about you and the work you do and how you do it. So I think you'd be very lucky to have to work with you. So thank you so much for joining us on The Sensitive Warrior. We're feeling everything is your superpower. And if you're interested in working with Seraphine, just reach out to me at Doreen@blossomhealingstudio.com and I will connect you up. And then just while I have another half a minute here, how can people reach you directly if they're still tuned in?
You can reach us at www.seraphinephotography.com. And that's Seraphine, SERAPHINE, photography.com. Or you can give me a call. And my number is 508-579-3669. That's 508-579-3669. And you can find us on the internet, whether on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or even on our website.
Oh, you're busy. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great. And know
Thank
if you
you.
hire her, you know that you're going to get attention and be seen. So thank you again so much for coming on. And until next time, remember, feeling everything is your superpower. Embrace it. Thank you so much. See you next time.